My name's Tiga Bayles. I'm the CEO of Brisbane Indigenous Media Association, or BEMA as it's known. The Brisbane Indigenous Media Association owns the broadcast licence of 98.9 FM, was formerly known as 4AAA, Murray Country. It also owns the AAA training company. It's a registered training organisation known as AAA Training. I am a weary man of the Birigubba Nation. Their country is up around Mackay, Nebo, Serena. Also Kungaloo from around Rockhampton way. I'm also of the Willy Willy clan from around Iswell, Gayndah, Mundubra, South Burnett region. This radio station began as Murray Hour. Murray Hour was on 4ZZZ here in Brisbane back in the mid-80s, 84, 85. My mother's younger brother, Ross Watson, was the mover behind establishing this Murray Hour. He saw us being my mum, Maureen Watson, myself, and a couple of brothers. We had been broadcasting on Radio Redfern in Sydney for a couple of years. They'd come down and seen the facility that we had, a studio in Redfern, broadcasting on Radio Skid Row, a mainstream community station. So they came back here and spoke to Triple Z and got 1 hour a week pre-recorded program for the First Nations community. It was called Murray Hour for the Murray community. About a year after, they progressed into doing live programming, and it expanded and grew over coming years to about 25 hours a week was Murray Hour. At the same time this was happening, from 84 through to the late 80s, early 90s, Uncle Ross was putting together the broadcast licence application. That was a long drawn out process. Finally, after an appeal, the Brisbane Indigenous Media Association was awarded the licence for 98.9 FM in Brisbane. That was in 91. And that was when I came back to Brisbane, because I was in New South Wales for some 15 or 16 years. And then once the licence was awarded to BEMA, I applied for a job and came back. I began as the assistant manager with Ross and programmer. We started to recruit our staff, train people up, while we were still on 4ZZZ. I think it was about 15 or 20 hours a week we had at this stage. We launched 4AAA Murray Country on 98.9 FM on the 6th of April 2003. In those days, the people we recruited, Murrays, our people, nobody had been, most had never been inside a radio station, let alone had any broadcast skills, any media skills. So we had to train people from scratch. And that was okay, that was fine. We spent the first 3 to 5 years building a profile, developing a sound, establishing a sound and building a profile. We decided that it would be primarily country music, integrated with Murray music, 3 songs an hour or so, because there wasn't a lot of Murray music around. And back in 84, when Murray Hour first began, or before that, I began in 1980, 81, and when I started in Radio Redfern, there was only Jimmy Little was the only recording artist. Harold Blair had some stuff, but his wasn't the sort of music that we played, big opera sort of stuff. So as far as contemporary music goes, it was Jimmy Little with a few albums. Then along came Roger Knox. And then at the same time, there was First Nations artists coming through CASM, the Centre for Aboriginal Studies in Music, which was attached to Adelaide University. There were bands like Coloured Stone, Us Mob, who I managed for a few years, Cuckoles, who are now the Pigram Brothers, and a number of others. No Fixed Address. They started to, they was early graduates of the Centre for Aboriginal Studies in Music. So we were fortunate to see music being recorded and coming out on vinyl, the big black CDs, as you might say today. We're talking about a period of time here where it was old technology. It was analogue technology. We had vinyl, little 45s, the singles, the albums, the long plays, LPs. We didn't have computers. We never had mobile phones back in those early 80s through to the late 80s. So this period of time was when we had reel-to-reel tapes, quarter-inch reel-to-reel tape that we had music recorded on. We had cassettes. So it was old technology, and so when we look back from today, we can see a massive change with the technology. It's so portable, we can carry it in a suitcase and broadcast from almost anywhere. So long as there is power, we can broadcast almost from anywhere in the country without being wired up to anything. And it's all digital. It's a digital age, computers and mobile phones, everything. It's fantastic. We decided on country music because, one, there wasn't another country music station in Queensland, let alone Brisbane. And it's pretty much the same today. There are small narrowcast licenses that only broadcast for a kilometre or two around their station that are playing country music today. But largely there is no other full-time 24/7 country music station other than 98.9 FM. We started out with being an informative station, informing not only our people but the broader community. We felt a need to structure programming that would attract or be seen to be attractive to most anybody. We didn't cater too well and still don't to younger people, but those younger people are starting to turn on to country music because it's got such a broad range. Country music is no longer just the old traditional country music. It's much broader than that. There's crossover, and it can be very poppy sounding or very, very, very cool sounding for young people today. So it was about entertainment, it was about informing people. One of the important things about this opportunity, where we own our own radio broadcast license, we can articulate our own experiences. We can articulate our own identity. We can articulate our history. That's the magical part of being a part of this, of having this resource. Being able to tell our stories to everybody. And that's how we're going to make changes in this country. We'll change attitudes via the media. With our training, we've been training people from day one in this station, from 91 when I first started with this station. And we're still training people today. And it's much more sophisticated training, it's much more structured training. It's national accredited training. And our trainees can get hands-on experience. They can go into the studios, the television studio, the radio broadcast studios, the music room, the multi-track recording room. They can get hands-on experience. Yeah, well, with music and the development and the progression of recorded music by our people, they're breaking through a lot of barriers. Back in the early 80s, through to the late 80s, early 90s, it was very, very hard for the distribution of our artists. It's one thing to be able to get into a studio and record and come out with a master that might have 10 or a dozen songs on it. Or it might be might only be like an EP, 3 or 4 songs on it. But then you've got to get it out there, you've got to distribute it. So the first place to go is get it out to your First Nation stations, that network of First Nation stations. First place to go. And then when they're performing, they have to sell their product at their gigs, have them on hand there. But there was a time when record companies, music stores did not stock, and largely still today they don't stock our people's music. It's a bit like trying to buy the Koori Mail, First Nations paper, the National Indigenous Times, Tracker magazine. The news agencies don't stock these First Nations print or First Nations newspapers. Well, the role of 98.9 today, one is to continue to try to change attitudes, continue to tell our stories, continue to inform people, particularly of their roles now, mainstream Australians, non-First Nations people, their role. And their role is, know this place you call home. Know the true history of this place that we all call home. If we all can know the true history, we all can develop an understanding and respect of First Nations people, of this country, this land. If we can develop that respect and understanding, that will lead to a more harmonious coexistence with all who call this place home, including our mob. So that's one of the roles of this station. Continue to inform people, to educate. Continue to promote our artists, our talent that there's such a wealth of in our community. Continue to challenge the system, challenge society, ask the questions. Continue to train and employ people. They're some of our key roles for this station today.